Well, if one of your resolutions is to get your finances on track in 2017, simple changes to how you manage money can make all the difference. Less than half of Canadians use a monthly budget, and that could be the key if you are hoping to tackle overspending and build savings in 2017. Blair Mantin from Sands & Associates has some tips to help you achieve your money goals. And welcome back, Blair.
My pleasure to be here. Happy New Year to you.
And as we were mentioning, a lot of people don't do budgets. Why is it so important to try to do a budget?
I use the analogy, it's like driving your car without a map if you're old-fashioned, or without a GPS today. If you've got no idea where you're going, really any route's going to get you there, and where you're going to end up is probably in a situation where you've got too much debt, you've got no savings, and you don't know where your money's going each month. The way you deal with all that is you get yourself a good budget and you revisit that budget on a monthly basis to actually track what happened versus what you thought was going to happen.
Exactly. So what are some of the basic areas that people need to focus on and some guidelines for those areas?
Sure. Well, let's go one by one. So, the first one, and especially in Vancouver here, is housing. Now, housing is typically going to be the largest proportion of your budget. A good guideline is around 35%, but even that is very challenging in Vancouver to meet. So what I see a lot of my clients doing when they've got to deal with housing costs is they're looking at things like homestay students, for example. I've got people who take in homestay students, year after year. It helps defray the cost, and they get some great cultural enrichment in their lives. Another is living with roommates. So any way that you can try to split that cost, that's generally your best bet. But Vancouver is an expensive place. So if there's one category that's typically very tough to keep under 35%, it's often housing. So
you should definitely try to keep it at about 35%. And if not, should you try to change your accommodation?
Yeah, if possible, yeah.
Okay. What's the next big area?
Well, another big one that we often don't think about is transportation costs. So, getting from point A to point B should be about 15% of your after-tax take-home income. But we often, because we don't track our budgets, we don't realize how expensive it is to have a car in the city.
So it's actually that high then, 15% of our income?
It's reasonable. And, if you're doing public transit, you're going to be well below that, on just about any income level. So public transit, you're winning this battle. If you've got a car, consider that the all-in cost of a car, according to BCAA, is just under $10,000 in a year. So that's very significant. You've got to have pretty good income for that to be 15% of your income.
Right. And that's where the suburban residents actually have to pay a bit more if you're maintaining a car and driving further distances.
Exactly. So sometimes we save in the housing, but then we bump it up in the transportation category.
Right. And now, of course, food and other living expenses. What percentage should we be aiming for in there?
About 30% of your take-home pay is reasonable. Statistics Canada says, between $200 to $350 per person per month is about where you'd want to be on a food basis. The biggest leakage that I see in this category is, we often are good at tracking what we spend at the grocery store, but we're not good at tracking all of the incidentals, when we're out shopping or lattes or things like that. So a little bit of leakage on a daily basis can very quickly put that budget category out of whack.
Well, and that's an easy area where you can save is not eating out as much.
Exactly, yeah.
Just your budget will just go kaboom.
Bring the lunch to work, bring the coffee in the thermos. All those things can save you multiple amounts per day. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, every month we should be saving some of our money. What's the ideal percentage there?
A reasonable amount to save is about 10%. So if you're able to save...
Are most people doing that?
I wish they were. This is the one that people really drop first because we think, okay, I've got to pay everybody else, but you don't think to pay yourself. The old adage of pay yourself first, you absolutely have to do that. Almost nobody these days has a company pension plan. You are your own pension plan. And when you contribute to your RRSP, that's protected. No matter if the worst thing happened and you had to go into bankruptcy, you will keep your RRSP. You won't keep anything else typically.
Okay. And speaking of another area of budgeting, debt repayment, credit card payments, all sorts. What do you think is sort of the typical percentage there that we should be allocating?
Well, the ideal percentage would be nothing because ideally we're debt-free and we're living within our means every month. But if you've got debt, I think you need to set yourself an upper limit, and that upper limit is 10%. If you're finding that more than 10% of your take-home pay each month is going to your debt, you're probably not getting ahead. First off, you're probably just paying interest, and you'll be owing that same amount 10 years from now. But generally, I find people are putting a ton more than 10% into just making minimum payments and actually going further into debt each month. So look at what you're paying in debt. If it's more than 10%, consider making a change, getting some professional advice, seeing a licensed insolvency trustee.
Okay, so if you're, but first of all, you have to know where your money's going.
That's exactly it. Write it down, revisit it every month. You'll be amazed at what you see.
Excellent advice. Thank you very much, Blair.
Thank you.